everyone. I am honored to be here and I'm so excited because you ladies have really stumbled on a tremendous work. To have a network where professional women from all walks of life can come together and pray and cry and be transparent is just not something that you see often. And from all of the sisterhood and the laughter that I heard tonight, it just made me realize that not only is this a rare situation, but it's also a wonderful jewel that you should be happy to be a part of. So, the title of my speech tonight is What is the Big Deal About a Little Compassion? And the subtitle would be tonight, Everything's Perfect. Oh, really? That's the title, the subtitle. So I'm really going to dig in and I'm going to start by saying two of my favorite scriptures because this is really the message, the theme that I want to drive home tonight. So the first one is Isaiah 26, and I believe it's 6. He will keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on him. So it's so important, especially right now, for us to keep our minds on him. And sometimes I feel like I'm doing this and he's bringing me back and I'm going back and forth because we're looking at all this going on around us and then all of the things that are going on within our own immediate scope. And we just take our focus off of him. And that's when we start to sink and that's when we start to feel yucky and all of those negative feelings start to emerge because we're hearing a lot of bad news, we're seeing a lot of bad news, we're experiencing some bad things personally, professionally, and in our families. And so all of these things are going on and they're making us feel like, oh, I can't do this, but you don't have to. That's the good news that I have tonight. If we keep our eyes on Him, then we will be all right. We will have peace. He will give us joy. And the battle is His, and His alone. So remember that. It's not our battle to fight. So the scripture that I have that I also wanted to talk about is one of my favorites, and it's Psalms 138 and 8. He will perfect those things which concern us. Forsake not the works of thine own hands. And it just left my brain. So the premise is the first part. He will perfect those things that concern us. And I like that because of the fact that not only will he make right the things that concern us, hence why I came up with my title, he will perfect those things that concern us. So all of the things that we're concerned about, he will perfect. But also when it says he will perfect those things that concern us, he will perfect those things having to do with us. So everything having to do with us, everything that pertains to Erlene and Anita and Stephanie and Crystal and all of the ladies on this Zoom meeting tonight, everything that concerns us, everything that has to do with us, from our nails to our hair, everything that has to do with us, he will perfect all of those things. So at this point, we can just take a deep breath knowing that he is in control. So compassion goes a little bit deeper than just the action of loving someone else or even loving yourself. Compassion really speaks to looking deep within and feeling, according to what I read in the Strong's Concordance, when it breaks down the Greek and the Hebrew, it just speaks about pitying someone, really feeling the sadness and the pain and taking that on as a part of your own. And so compassion is really looking at somebody's situation and having empathy towards that situation. So I have a great story. I have so many stories. Sometimes I lay in bed and I'm like, God, I don't have any stories. I have millions of stories. Being in social work, I've had all kinds of people come to me and tell me all kinds of stories. I don't know exactly who told me this story or whether the person himself told me this story. I don't recall, but this is a true story. So there's a man who is a Christian and he wants other people to experience kingdom life, the joy and the happiness and the peace that can be obtained as Christ believers. And so he was giving out free Bibles. So he comes across this guy, and the guy is, I guess, just sitting on the porch hanging out. And he says to him, well, hi, how are you? My name is whatever, whatever. And I wanted to know if I could interest you in giving you a Bible. It's a free Bible. I'm not going to bug you with anything afterwards. I'm not going to call you or give you any Christian tract. Just want to give you a free Bible. It's just from my heart to yours. So the guy looks at him and he's like, no, I'm not interested. He said, I promise you, no strings attached. Just take this Bible and I'm out of here, out of your hair. You'll never have to see me again. So the guy says, well, I'll take the Bible, but I want to use the pages to smoke weed. Can you believe that? I'm like, oh, weed? Are you serious? He wanted to use the pages to smoke marijuana. So the guy said, well, tell me this. I'll tell you this. This is the guy having compassion. So the guy says, you know what? Do with it what you will, but just promise me before you roll it up and smoke it, you will read the page. So the guy said, okay, bet, I'll do it. So he goes ahead and he's rolling it up and smoking and having a good time, but he's reading every page as he said he would. Then he gets to John 3:16. This is where you see God having compassion. He gets to John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And it just struck the man. He was moved. And he called the guy because the guy's phone number was in the Bible. And he said, call me if you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about. He said, in tears, is this true? Did God really give his only son? His only son for us? His only son for me, this weed smoking guy? And he said, yes, it's true. And from that moment, he gave his life to the Lord and said, if this is the God that you're serving, then I want to serve him too. So not only did the man have compassion, and he didn't judge him, he didn't say, no, I'm not wasting my Bible on you. You're a weed head. I'm not giving my Bible to somebody who's going to use it to smoke weed. I'm going to give you this Bible anyway, but just use it and enjoy it and read it. And so this was the man showing compassion. And then, as we know, he's shown compassion on us by giving his only begotten son for us. So I wanted to tell a story about myself as well and how compassion has shown up in my life. I was with a guy who wasn't necessarily somebody that I would have chosen had it had I known then what I know now. Let's put it that way. And it turns out that the relationship was pretty tumultuous. We did marry, and we did conceive a child, and it didn't work out. This person turned out to be on drugs. And, as this educator, I came from, y'all see my mama. I came from good stock. My dad is not with me anymore. He passed away in October of 2020. But I came from good stock. My parents were educated, they were educators. They taught me to make good decisions, to walk with the Lord. And I married this guy who's on drugs. So, I'm thinking, what are you thinking? I'm looking in the mirror like, what are you thinking? But I learned from that experience. But anyway, so we got married, and ultimately I wound up having to leave quickly because he was volatile and had a propensity for violence. And if you know anything about the drug arena, anything could happen at any moment. Any kind of violence, any kind of anything can happen. And you can be in the midst of it. You can get a stray bullet. You can get a volatile husband. You can get all kinds of things. And so I determined that I was going to go ahead and leave. And I had to leave quickly. So I was in Alabama, living in Alabama at the time. And something about me in the Southeast region. I just love it. I love the South. Sorry. Sorry, Mom. I love the South. So you need to come down here. But I was living in Birmingham at the time, and I had to resign from my job because I was teaching special ed at the time. And then I had a side job at a resort, and I was giving tours at the resort, so I had to resign from that job. And we only had one car, so my husband had the car. And when I told the police about it, he said, "Well, they said it's community property, so if we find it, we find it, but if not, it's pretty much his car because he's your husband. Even if I'm leaving him, he's my husband. Yes, until you can produce divorce papers, yada, yada, yada." So, anyway, I had to go back to Michigan. So, just bear in mind, I've quit my jobs. I left my home in Michigan, I mean, in Alabama. I had to leave quickly so I can only get whatever essential items from that home. Some of them I gave away. Some of them I just stuffed in the vehicle that we drove back to Michigan in, and I had to move in with my mom. Did not tell you that I also had had a miscarriage. So I knew that I was leaving my home. I did not have a job. I did not have a home except for the home that I had with my mom in Michigan. And, I just was really at a low point when I got home. My mom was like, "Of course you stay as long as you want. I love you. And we're going to get through this together. We're going to pray." And I just didn't even want to pray. I just wanted to I don't know. So I had the miscarriage. This husband, not only did I need to leave him because of the drugs, but because he had also threatened to kill me, and didn't have the jobs, didn't have a car because I had to leave the car with him. And ultimately, he was living in the car, some weird stuff like that. So I'm in Michigan with no car, no job, no baby because I had the miscarriage. And I just asked the Lord. I knew that if anybody had compassion on my situation, even more so than my own mom, it would be God. So I asked him, I said, "I've lost my job. I've lost my home. I've lost my marriage. Clearly, I can't go back to that. I've miscarried. I don't know if I will conceive again. And I, why am I here? What am I doing?" And after that, I heard in a still small voice clearly, "You're worth saving." So, with that, I want you to know that I don't care if the dog decides to go in the house instead of out. I don't care if your child forgets to wear underwear to school. I don't care if you feel like your marriage is weakening, because who knows what those people are thinking half the time. We can't decipher our own lives. And so these men folk that are in our lives, we can't even begin to decipher that. But I don't care if you feel like your marriage is weakening. I don't care if you feel like your business is failing. Keep your eyes on him who will give you perfect peace in the midst of whatever storm you're going through, whatever dis-ease you feel like you're going through, whatever is happening in your life. Know that you have the sisterhood that you're a part of, and you have him. So keep your eyes on him. Keep your focus on him. And even if you have to scream it to the top of your lungs 100 times, Lord, I need you. Lord, help me. Do that until that peace comes, because he does hear you and he does answer you. And in our distress, he may not give you the car that you want, or he may not give you the answers that you want right in those moments that you want them. But one thing I do know about him is he will come in the midst of your distress. He will come during those times of you're falling apart. So let's fast forward to 2021. So I'm married to a lovely man, and he caught COVID. And so I'm trying to help him, but he's a manly man and he's fighting me every step of the way. And I'm in the midst of Walgreens trying to get a prescription. And I just break down. The confidence coach, the therapist, the teacher. I just break down in the middle of Walgreens. And the millennial pharmacist was like, he was looking at me like, lady, come on, do you want vitamin C or what? So I pulled myself back together, and ultimately, seeing God's compassion, the young man says, and I know that it wasn't him, I know it was God, says, everything's going to be okay. And I just knew that from that moment on, that everything was going to be okay. And by the way, it is. He's off oxygen. He's home from the hospital. He's doing wonderful. But just know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you feel you can't come out of, you will. And he is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that you can ask or imagine. So as I close, I just want you to be encouraged tonight. And even if you feel yucky inside, know that you have a God inside of you that can fix and perfect everything that concerns you. I am Charlotte Terrell. If you're looking for me on Google, it's Charlotte E. Terrell. As some people may know, there's a really nice lady who is Charlotte Terrell, but she's a photographer and she's not me. So you have to put that E on there if you want to Google me. But you can reach me at charlotteeterrell.com. And I look forward to any kind of interaction that we can have in the future, ladies. God bless you. Be at peace and not in pieces.
Thank you so much. You were awesome. I think I really needed your message today.
I'm so glad. I am so glad.
Thank you so much.